Hey, everybody.
Welcome to the
How are
show.
you?
Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Hopefully, everybody got probably have a light crowd just because everybody's a lot of seasons open tomorrow. I think everybody's probably out roosting birds, but um, got a much needed guest on tonight. Everybody's been bugging us about getting some turkey hunters on, and we got Mr. Scott Cronin on tonight. How's it going, Scott?
It's going good. I appreciate you having me on. I'm proud of what you've done and how you and Dan are collaborating together. I've enjoyed watching several of your episodes and just keep up the good work. So
No, thanks, man. Thanks. Um, yeah, Scott, you've hunted all over the country for turkeys throughout your life, haven't you?
pretty much,
Yeah,
if you ask certain people, I've tried to find a creative way to tie my travel and work with getting to take part in hunting, and so I've adapted to that. And through the travels where maybe some people have gone to a shopping mall or gone to an amusement park where they're traveling with work, I'm jumping on a national forest or WMA or knocking on doors, and it's been great. And turkeys are a lot cheaper to kill than elk and mule deer, and
yeah,
most of the tags are cheaper than whitetail tags, and it's a pretty much easy over the counter tag in the majority of the states. So turkey hunting's been really good to me. A lot of fellowship, a lot of different tactics can be used, and turkeys come in all shape, forms, and sizes, along with skill levels that you need to kill birds, whether it's in big timber or field. There are easy turkeys to kill, and there are turkeys that deserve our respect, and
yeah.
hopefully we'll talk about that tonight.
Oh yeah, for sure. Something I noticed about you, I was going to bring up is you talk about fellowship and turkey hunting, and that's kind of how I like view turkey hunting. Is like I like to go with people, and not, more so than even deer hunting. But I was looking for a picture of you with a turkey on your Facebook profile
Yeah,
this afternoon, making a a thumbnail for this episode, and I could
yeah,
hardly find a picture of just you and a turkey. It was like you and a buddy, or you and your daughter, or you and
yeah,
your wife.
yeah,
I was like, man, this
yeah.
guy hunts
No,
with people
yeah,
all the time.
a lot of times I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up where you had to promote yourself as a consistent and good outdoorsman with social media,
Yeah,
um, and the photography thing. Not to jump off in the weeds right out of the gate, but we title a lot of people as experts in the hunting industry.
yeah,
But more importantly, I want to be known as a conservationist and a mentor and a sportsman. Um, that's hard to do. All three of us have some shape, form, or fashion of payment that comes into our bank accounts because of what we do. But I think it is important to get people out there and to share what we know and to introduce them to the outdoors. But yeah, I'm not into all the self clicking buttons and wireless controllers and stuff to take all these great images. But I
yeah.
do try
No,
to enjoy the settings a lot. You know.
yeah, no. You had plenty of good photos. It was just always with a buddy or with a your daughter, or just someone was
Yeah.
always with you in
Yeah.
the photos. I wasn't.
Yeah,
I didn't mean.
I felt warm and fuzzy when I seen that picture that you kind of edited with me and Dan. I was like, man,
Yeah.
that's 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 true love right there. So,
I don't know how good a job I did. If anybody could tell that was Photoshop, but
You
so
know,
uh,
it's kind of interesting the conversation you guys are having because it reminds me of my days turkey hunting. And when I started turkey hunting, it was when turkeys really first started getting hunted in Wisconsin. They were reintroduced here, and you had to apply and hope you'd get a tag. And I learned how to turkey hunt on my own. I didn't have any
yeah,
mentors, anybody hunting with me. Nobody even really turkey hunted yet. They didn't know about the sport. I had to travel away from my home because there was no turkeys by my home at that time. And the first, 5 to 8 years that I turkey hunted, it was solo, and I just, went out and enjoyed that on my own. And then when I started hunting with Dave, and we started turkey hunting, and my kids got to age to turkey hunt, it became a lot more enjoyable and a whole different sport.
yeah,
And the whole bringing people into it. And I can remember when we used to just get as many tags as we could, between the kids and Dave and I and stuff, and we would just the whole season be out hunting turkeys. And if we had a week we didn't have somebody with a tag or we filled up, we'd be looking for some kid that had a tag. And those were the funnest days of my life for turkey hunting. And it's kind of sad now that my kids grew up and now they're too old to chase silly birds with their dad. And Dave's gone, and it doesn't have the appeal it used to. I still go, but it's back to kind of like, turkey hunting.
Yeah. What surprises me about turkey hunting is, for example, I've been up to Wisconsin and turkey hunted, and you travel to all these different places, and there's some places that turkey hunting is a legit challenge. I mean, I would put it up with trying to kill a big whitetail. Excuse me, but there's also places where, you always have those people like, you traveled from where to come hunt turkeys? You don't have turkeys where you live? And it's like, we're out of tags. And I would just about bet that most of the people that you see that travel all around the country, they're good sportsmen, because if they lived in their hometown, as much as they love the turkey hunt, they'd be the worst outlaw in their community. And that's really what drives this turkey hunting thing, is we run out of tags. And it's kind of what's going on with this turkey situation right now. There are so many people that can get in the truck for $500, $800, $1,000 and eat out of their cooler and sleep and hunt and hit 2 or 3 states and accomplish quite a bit as a hunter. And I think that's grown in popularity. So it's even those of us, like Dan's saying, that have learned to hunt with other people and get the enjoyment. One thing I will say about turkey hunters is it seems like we're always trying to up the bar and like, okay, we get this many states this year. How many can we get next year? And then you're trying to grow a group. Like tonight, I'm working with 5 other grown adults, and we're on the national forest, and we will hunt tomorrow. But those 5 individuals are here because we're trying to figure out what we can do to better curriculum and education for youth. But what we have in common is we turkey hunt. And we'll turkey hunt before a normal work day. We'll all be getting back to the truck at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then we'll spend the day working and processing through things. And so I would really encourage people, if they haven't started to share turkey hunting with other people, to do so. Back when turkey hunting first started, it was like you had to keep a secret because there wasn't that many turkeys to hunt. And we were real secretive. There was hunters, and then there was turkey hunters. And now I'm seeing some of that negative side of keeping hush-hush about it actually come up again, to where people are almost beating their chest or trying to figure out what type of status they are as an alpha male based on how many turkeys they can kill, as we see this decline in turkey in some certain areas. So if people are listening and you're kind of on the fence about, where you're at with your turkey hunting career or what it is for you as a sport, whatever you do, if you're in an area that's seeing a decline in birds, please don't take away from what Dan and I are trying to tell you, and that is make it a social event and utilize it to pass on to especially new hunters, females and children. It's a fantastic sport. I'm very passionate about it. Love it so much.
Yeah. I get excited to turkey hunt every year. I'm not like I've never been a hardcore turkey hunter. Like my dad didn't turkey hunt growing up. My grandpa didn't. We didn't turkey hunt. And now I just look forward to it because like I got a buddy from high school that comes and hunts with me every opening weekend. And it's the only time of year I really see him. We spend a long weekend together. And that's like, I really look forward to that. Now my wife's wanting to get into it, and I'm looking forward to that. And it's like, I'd be tickled pink if I didn't shoot a bird this year and those two got, birds.
And I'm sure we'll talk about it in the program, but it's amazing how you can spend all day hunting till your feet are burning, in your boots, and it seems like you can't do anything right. And then next day you go out in 5 minutes, it's over. It's just like that. I think that's part of what keeps us going back too. I feel like I'm defeated more with other species than I am turkeys, but I feel like the challenge is just a little bit different, and tweaked, and in a different way when a turkey beats me versus if a whitetail beats me, so.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, Scott, before we get too far into these weeds, can you kind of give us a elevator pitch of who you are and like what you've kind of accomplished as a turkey hunter over the years?
Sure. I'm 44 years old. I live in Western Kentucky. I grew up in Northern Kentucky off the Ohio River. Been a agriculture education teacher for 22 years. My background is pretty diverse in turkey hunting. I started at a young age. Actually started doing the traveling aspects of turkey hunting when I was in college, and I started chasing seasons. I wanted to turkey hunt in certain states come in earlier than others, so I started learning the game, and I started realizing that this could be something that I do other than just in my home state. Um, I've been so blessed and fortunate over the years to harvest turkeys in a lot of different states. I'm not really chasing, trying to kill a turkey in every state where it's legal. I've killed Gould's turkeys. I've killed Eastern Smeared. I've killed all the species of turkeys that are out there, other than the ocellated, which I have zero interest in doing. To me, it may be a species of turkey, but it's something that I've heard too many hunts, or too many stories of hunts and experiences, and it's just not what I am. Um, just to kind of tell you what my resume's been with turkey hunting, I have done work for several companies over the years in developing product. I have been recognized for some of my work with youth at a national level to try to collaborate and bring people together from the educational setting and bringing conservation and hunting into the classroom. There are people who have asked me to develop and write curriculum and collaborate with multiple people and businesses to try to bring things together to figure out maybe where the shortfalls are. So I have tried to stay very humble, and I have enjoyed every minute of it. And people ask me all the time, "Is turkey hunting your favorite thing?" It is, when duck season and deer season and whatever other season isn't in.
Yeah.
I'm aggressive with all of them, and I take them all very serious. And fortunately, I can speak to this topic on turkeys. I know what it's like to have easy field birds to pattern to hunt, and I know what it's like to absolutely get your rear end handed to you on a piece of public land. And I mean, I know what it's like to have turkeys come running to you from 300 yards away with a decoy. And I know that there's turkeys that I've killed that if I would ever touch the call, I would have never killed them. And one of the biggest issues that I see as people build their turkey hunter resume, you could say, is everybody wants to write the book about what is turkey hunting, or what's the best style of turkey hunting, or you're not a turkey hunter if you hunt this way or that way. Look, you're looking at a species of bird that you start hunting in March, and you can hunt it all the way up into the Northeast or the northern states up until June. So reaping, if it's a safety issue, it probably doesn't need to be done. Setting over the top of decoys, it's a personal preference. Using a friction call or a mouth call or a wing bone call, whether you use TSS or lead, whether you use a blind or build a natural ground blind, or just you run and gun, or whether you deer hunt turkeys. I do see, as I develop as a hunter and the roles that I play in the industry and the collaboration projects, that we divide ourselves as hunters. And I do not like that. So when you asked me about the opportunity to come on tonight, I hope that we can give people some tips and techniques, but I hope that we realize that we need to stop worrying so much about what other people are doing, and we need to pat them on the back that they're getting out there and going.
Yeah. Me and Dan had a whole episode about that last week, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, turkey hunters are not the worst by any means, but like one of the worst groups of people that like judge others on how they kill their turkeys.
Oh, that's everywhere in hunting. I mean, you get bow hunters, crossbows, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard turkey hunters talk about the fanning or reaping. That should be illegal, and if you do that, that's not turkey hunting. And same with the ground blinds or shotgun, like TSS stuff. And it's like, man,
I get a lot about my style of run and gun, because I like going after them and spotting birds and circling around and cutting them off. And I just enjoy that, trying to watch them from a distance, see what they're doing, and move in on them. And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but that's what I enjoy. And a lot of people tout that as dangerous. But I mean, if you know what you're doing, you know if you're hunting a bird, and it's not like I'm going and walking up on it and shooting it. I'm still letting it come to me.
Yeah, no doubt. I had a conversation with a gentleman today. We're on the Hoosier National Forest, and he was asking me why I invited him to come, and besides of what he does for his professional work. And I said, there are private farms in Indiana that I could go hunt tomorrow morning and stick a decoy out, and a bird would run 300 yards across the field, and I would shoot it. I would be done by 10 o'clock unless I miss. But then I also know that there's a lot of places that I can park my truck, and I really don't necessarily want to know where the bird is at tonight. I want to get up in the morning and stand at the end of that gate on that trailhead and decide which direction I'm going to go, because it brings me back to how I learned how to turkey hunt. And what I'm getting at is, as I've developed, and people ask you, what is your resume or what's your background as a turkey hunter? Man, I was a little teenage kid bouncing around this ridge, that ridge, this bottom, that bottom, and I was the best trespasser in the world. But here's the deal: I wasn't breaking the law. Nobody cared. Like, if you ran into another hunter in the woods, they ask if you've been seeing anything. Have you found any mushrooms? Like, did you hear that bird gobble over there? And a lot of times when you would kill a bird, I would go back to my grandfather or my dad, and I would have to tell them where I killed it to figure out who I killed it on. And then, like, hey, you need to take that over there. They'd like to see it, And that's really how it was. And this deer leasing and out-of-state hunters and the competition and all this, it's kind of taken away. So when I go to public land, even if it's overutilized or it's crowded, especially on the opener, I find myself coming back full circle to where I really like, waiting for the owls to naturally start and seeing where the first bird's going to gobble. And I like standing there on the ridge and seeing if it's a hot bird or if there's going to be one even closer that gobbles. And I kind of laugh at this because I went through the stage of where I got burnt out on hunting public land. I got tired of getting my butt kicked, honestly, when I could go over here and put numbers on the board and put birds on the tailgate. And I got into those days of where we were putting down, big counts of birds through a season. And no doubt about it, the people we were taking, they really enjoyed it. And everything we did was legal, but we were putting a lot of turkeys in the back of trucks. And now I find myself accepting the challenge. If I need to hunt on a piece of big public ground for 4 or 5 days to fill a tag, I would rather do that than to go shoot one and my turkey season be 30 minutes on a private agriculture field. And so how do you sum that up in a resume or a podcast interview? You can't.
When you're talking about your turkey hunts, it reminds me of something. When you look back at your birds, you probably got probably a lot more birds off of private farms and stuff because of when you started, when you've gone.
Absolutely.
But when you look back, and I do this a lot, I really analyze my past kills and stuff, and it helps me figure out where I should be. But when you look back, which birds do you remember the most?
I remember the birds I didn't kill the most. The ones that absolutely rattled the timber.
Now, how were they killed? And what were you doing?
Yeah.
And why were they special?
Yeah.
And that's what you're really chasing. So if you go out for the kill and you're going out and sitting on a field because you know you're going to get a bird, you're not going to be satisfied if you're the kind of guy who really got the enjoyment out of going through a woods and finding that bird and then hunting them down. Whether you got them or not, that's your enjoyment. And I can see that and hear it in what you're talking about. Just like my enjoyment is going after them and hunting them, but there's different kinds of enjoyment. Like tomorrow morning, I'm going to go do the same thing I did last year. I'm going to sit in the blind right where me and Dave sat opening day of turkey many years, where I would just film him hunting because I enjoyed sitting with him, and I feel like I'm sitting with him again. And that's why I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
We each get our own enjoyment out of it for some reason or another.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I recently lost my dad 2 weeks ago, and I actually went and filled both my Kentucky tags and my dad's spots. And what was crazy about that is those are spots that, as father and son, or your hunting buddies. I mean, think about all the times that you go back and forth. Like, I think I should hang in this stand, or I think I should hunt here. No, you should do this and do that. We go back and forth. It's just constructive criticism. And like, I had to laugh because where my dad sits up, I always felt like the birds would hang up behind him, and so I sit up on the other side, basically where he would. that the birds come straight to me. And I can't tell you how many days on opening day that he would hunt and be like, man, those birds hung up behind me, and so it's like, that's what Dan's talking about. There is a lot of special things. You do look at your tactics and your techniques, and like I said, you're talking to a guy that has all the respect in the world for turkeys. I could probably be diagnosed as bipolar if I went to the doctor, because it used to be that I took box fans and hair dryers and dried out my turkeys to make them look pretty when I killed them on rainy days. And now I realize that you can kill turkeys on rainy days, but I leave my vest in the truck because it's not worth drying everything out for 3 hours. And I realize and understand that if I'm going to go kill a turkey in the rain, that it's definitely not going to be my Instagram or social media, picture of the year that I get out of that wet rat that it's going to look like, but I still have amazing hunts in the rain. It's just, as I've developed and I went through these challenges and these checklists of things that I had to do for companies as I worked for them, I had to have this image and this had to be in the background. And there was days that I'm just speaking to you truthful. Like, I had to basically send my turkeys to the beauty salon to make them look pretty for a picture. And that's, and I'm reflecting what Dan's saying. I reflect all the time. And I think turkey hunting is just something that's just going to have to take a lot of diversity and a lot of acceptance to understand that not everybody's going to hunt fields, not everybody's going to hunt timber, not everybody's going to use a shotgun, not everybody's going to use decoys. But in the end, it seems like it's a bird that everybody really likes to enjoy to hunt. And I would say that it's allowed people to I would say that most people, other than small game, I would say that turkey hunting is probably the number one way that people start doing their out-of-state hunts and learn how to travel to hunt.
It's probably also the number one way you bring non-hunters into hunting, because it's an easy hunt. It's better weather, and generally they have more success. And when they have success, they like what they do. They come back rather than putting some kid or new hunter or young woman who wants to get into hunting who doesn't have a mentor in a tree stand and have her stare at darkness and not see nothing forever. Where you can go out to turkey blind, just sit back and you hear the gobbles coming and stuff, and it's exciting to a new hunter. So it really gets people involved in the sport too.
No doubt. There's a whole lot of people that will, and I'll hunt them and use different tactics. There's a whole lot of people that don't understand how much work it is to hunt with elders, handicapped, disabled, and youth. It is a tremendous amount of work. And the other thing too, not taking anything away from the turkey or turkey hunting, I will advocate that the turkey is a lot easier species of game to put people on success on with filling a tag, and a lot cheaper than introducing them to trophy deer hunting or trying to kill a buck or what have you. So that shotgun will fit a whole lot of people where that bow may be more specific, and it just works. So it just works. I don't know anybody that just turkey hunts either. Most turkey hunters deer hunt, they duck hunt, they trap, they fish, and I think most turkey hunters in general are all around good outdoors men and women. So your consistent turkey hunters are very good. They're good at frog gigging. They're good at fishing. They're good at killing deer. They raise a garden. I mean, there's a pattern and some characteristics with consistent killers in the turkey woods. So.
Yeah. You want to get into some turkey tactics now for a little bit? We've kind of BS'd about just turkey hunting stuff.
Yeah. One tactic that's really popular to debate and talk about right now is, I guess we should talk a little bit about the whole reaping aspect and the fan. I don't want to necessarily get into talking about how to do it. I would like to utilize the time that you've given me as being a guest on the show to let people know that it doesn't work 100% of the time. And people need to realize that we don't go out and deer hunt and expect to kill a big giant deer each time that we go out. And we wouldn't necessarily jump out of the tree stand and go chase a buck, and so I wonder sometimes with these tactics why people are wanting to be so aggressive with raising a fan and going over a hill versus just maybe coming back another day or having a different setup. As far as reaping itself, I've done it. I'll do it, but there's a time and a place for it. I'm not real keen and supportive of that being the only tactic that some of these younger hunters have learned and used to hunt turkeys. But the number one tactic or point that I can give you, and I think both of you will agree, and I respect both of you very much, people forget to learn the species. They forget woodsmanship. They forget scouting. They forget learning the weather. They forget learning the reproduction cycle. And the thing that I have seen as far as tactics with turkey hunting and a lot of other species of hunting is they think that the gear is the most important thing at first, instead of understanding that most of us, like myself included, the reason that people provide Dan Infalt or Josh or Scott Cronin or whatever with gear is because we were consistent for a long time. And a lot of people will use people like us as a way to market or promote a product. And it really wasn't that product that got us where we're at. It was the fact that we were students. You know, I'm a teacher, and we were students of that species. And we learned the landscape, we learned the terrain, we learned how to adapt, and we remembered stuff. And so when people start asking me about, you know, what is it, what tactic, what decoy do you use, what call do you use? And I'll tell you, 99% of the time, it really won't matter what call or what decoy or what camouflage or what shell or what gauge gun I have. Being in turkeys most of the time is just like killing big whitetails. It's about knowing when to strike and what tactic to use. So I thought about this today. I was actually walking down a national forest road. U.S. Forest Service agent was there, and he's not a turkey hunter. And we were talking about controlled burns on the forest and what they can do to increase wildflowers. And I was working, and I said, you know, these deer hunters, they get up in a stand, and you were talking about the ones that you remember. Deer that I have called up, rattled up, or grunted up, I remember those a lot. And not every deer is going to come to a grunt call. Not every deer is going to come to a rattle. Not every deer is going to come to a drag wreck. And I think that's why when we talk about tactics on turkeys, are we going to talk about tactics of just putting dead birds in the back of the truck? Or are we going to talk about tactics of killing birds in a swamp bottom or on a ridge? Because when we look at hunting turkeys, there's a whole lot of us that hunt turkeys that have shot birds and killed birds and tagged them and put them in the truck that didn't respond to a call at all. What killed them was the fact that we were woodsmen and we used the terrain and we used our knowledge of the species. I hear so many people that are into turkey hunting that get frustrated because, well, they're not gobbling. Well, no kidding. I mean, I've never seen a bird just start gobbling and gobble until the sun goes down, right? Some birds gobble more than others. But birds just don't gobble nonstop. And I hate when it comes to tactics and, you know, if someone's paying me or they're just asking me to volunteer my time or go somewhere, you talk to people, it doesn't matter what their age, what their race, what their religion, they just think birds are supposed to be gobbling all the time. Well, if that's your tactic that you're going to hunt turkeys when they're gobbling or gobbling good, there's a whole lot of turkeys that gobble really good. They still don't come down to the gun range or archery range to be shot. So stop relying on your tactic to be calling. That would be something that people need to listen to. There's times that calling changes the game, but overall, and this will be very debated, and I'll just have to agree to disagree with my friends that listen and the people that don't know me. Calling's the most overrated part of turkey hunting that there is, in my opinion. What the most important part of turkey hunting is scouting and understanding the birds and understanding the breeding. Because when you find where the birds want to be, or you know the direction and you're in front of the birds, you can call to them all you want. But people got to realize and understand, you want to talk about tactics, I can call with the best of any of them. I don't have to go up and be a Grand National calling champion. I don't want to be, because that's not how I call when I hunt. But I can tell you this much, there's times that it doesn't matter who you are. You can sound like the sexiest, dirtiest, sluttiest hen in the woods. and he's not coming. And then you can use a Jake decoy, and he'll run 1,000 yards to you. So tactics need to be looked at. Are you trying to have what's the quality of the hunt do you want? Do you want to kill a deer with a recurve, or do you want to kill a deer with a crossbow? Do you want to kill a turkey coming to the shotguns on a hardwood ridge, or do you just want to kill one out of a cornfield? Tactics need to be kind of almost like an objective, a belief, and a goal. Before you go to the woods, you may want to ask yourself, do I want to try to call this turkey in without a decoy and kill it? Do I want to try to get close enough to this turkey that I don't even have to use a call to kill it? Do I want to spend more time scouting versus more time going around? It's kind of like blinds. A lot of people want to talk about tactics with blinds, like, I hate hunting from a ground blind. I hate deer hunting turkeys. Well, let me tell you something. You're not deer hunting turkeys. You scouted your turkeys. You're sitting down before they get there. You've done the work. That's success. That's hard work, and that's dedication. People talk about deer hunting turkeys. I hate that tactic. I don't want to deer hunt turkeys. Let me tell you something. The most consistent people that kill turkeys in multiple states on short time periods, they're covering a lot of ground, and they're doing a lot of scouting. A lot. And they're finding out where these birds are at and where they're frequent, because it's just, I killed a bird Monday morning before a meeting that I had in Middle Tennessee with state game agencies. And I killed that bird on Monday morning, not because I'm a phenomenal turkey hunter. It's because of the fact that I gave part of my harvest to the landowner from a bird that I killed an hour away. And he said, man, I forgot to call you. I've seen the first turkeys on the farm this spring. I seen them this morning. And I said, great. Where'd you see them at? All down by the swamp. When you come to get one of them? I said, tomorrow morning. So even though I didn't hunt on his land, my tactic was still to be a good sportsman. And I gave him a turkey breast, and he let me know that he had seen 2 gobblers down in his bottom. That's the best data that I can get. And when you and Dan and me and others, we travel to hunt, why would you not talk to a landowner? Stop being so cool that you can't ask questions. The hardest part of my job and my career in the outdoor industry selling product is the fact that men don't like to ask other men questions or show that they don't know something, or they're incompetent. That's a tactic. You got to start asking questions. Ask these things that we read in old magazines and books by all these legends. I talked to the mailman the other day. I did. Ask him where he was seeing birds. I'm not seeing as many birds, but I always see birds down here. And he gave me the name of the road. I rode down there. I found some birds. Guess what? I knocked on the door. I got permission to hunt. I had a turkey dead in 2 hours from the time that I talked to the postal service worker. That's a tactic. All of us want to focus on tactics and gear. I will tell you this. I will tell you that there are more of us that have more gear than what we need than we have time to go hunt. There's not a single one of us that don't have an extra this and extra that, didn't like this, didn't like that, got this free, got this at a discount, whatever. We have more gear than we need. But the tactic that people are not utilizing the most is diversity with scouting and understanding that, they need to get out there and they need to be very open-minded. A lot of times in deer hunting and turkey hunting both, we pre-write the script in our brain instead of realizing that we need to understand the species. We think this looks good. We think this is a pinch point. We think this is a strut zone. We think a lot. Well, God and Mother Nature, those animals know a lot. And they know when they're being hunted. And that's another thing that you got to understand too. I have traveled and hunted enough, and others have too. I've seen birds that will run to a call and gobble a lot or come in or whatever. But I've also seen birds that have been pressured so much and watched them through binoculars and spotting scopes that when you call, they go straight to the cover. So your tactic of running and gunning, or your tactic of calling, or your tactic of aggressive cutting, it may not work, and it may change. People need to understand their tactics need to change as the weather changes. People need to understand that their tactics need to change as the reproduction cycle moves more forward. What happened or what worked yesterday probably won't work today because that turkey's dead. And now you're off to find another one. And there's a lot of things that have been said about turkeys. Like the most predictable thing about turkeys is that turkeys are unpredictable. And they are. And a person like myself who advocates and loves the turkey so much, especially just the whole aspect of all of it, there's times that I shoot turkeys and I will just say, that turkey was dumb. That's just a dumb turkey. And then there's other times that I shoot turkeys, and I swear I felt like I've dealt with a warrior. I'm like, my God, that was a grind. And here's the thing. You want to talk about tactics, thinking about, I think that's a Jake gobble. Oh, it sounds like a 2-year-old. Man, I had a bird, when was it? Sunday, gobbled nonstop. Had almost 2-inch spurs. Killed a 2-year-old the next day, didn't even gobble. Silent, calls, snuck right in and got shot. That 2-year-old bird had a huge beard, little bitty tiny spurs. I mean, this nubs for spurs, okay? And then that big gobbler, the old gobbler, he weighed 25 pounds and some change. Had those big spurs, had a little bitty short beard, like 6 inches, not beard rot, just 6 inches, just big and fat. And so if I was going to go off of tactics, I probably could have called more, done this, done that, whatever. We assume too much is what I'm saying. And we listen to too many people. Like, no one needs to listen to you, me, or Dan and say, well, because Scott Cronin or Dan or Josh said that, I need to try that. And we need to ease into stuff. It's kind of, turkey hunting is a lot like school teaching. I can be really strict to start off and get respect from my kids. And once I get that respect from my kids, then we can start to move forward. But I can't go into a deer hunt or a turkey hunt sloppy and then try to clean it up. It just doesn't work. And these tactics are the same way. You can't start off calling like really loud and like, well, I'm just going to tone it down now. I mean, you've got to start putting things together. Tactics, strategies, tips. I mean, you would be amazed at how many people are our age or older that don't know that the sun still rises in the east every morning, and they'll put the sun in their face. That's a tactic. Okay. There's so many people that don't realize and understand that yes, camouflage works, but you still need to stay still. But if a turkey is raising his head up all the time to gain an advantage of height, then you as a hunter need to understand that 6 inch or 2 foot or 8 foot rise in the field or the woods or the terrain, that is your advantage too, to watch that turkey and to see those birds coming. We've got to understand that your tactic may be that you're going to sneak in and get tight to cover instead of just putting your back against a tree, because after you turkey hunt long enough, you realize that those 3 or 4 jakes or those 3 or 4 hens that get there before the gobbler get there, they'll burn your hunt. That gobbler is like a big dumb buck sometimes. Those birds will run off and he'll be sitting there looking like, what's going on? You can yelp him right up. But those jakes or hens can almost burn you. So if people want to know what tactics are out there or what to do with their turkey hunting, just start paying attention to what you're doing. Start paying attention to what other people are doing, and go into it with a lot of common sense and study the species and don't push it. Like, stop just relying on that tail fan. Stop just relying on aggressive calling. Stop just relying on TSS. Stop just relying on pattern your gun, and learn the species and learn the terrain. You should be scouting turkeys as much or more than you're hunting them. And to be real honest with you, if I can be on a soapbox about something for just a minute, it's sometimes your best turkey hunters are looked at by how many birds they're killing, but no one ever looks at how much time they're putting into scouting and how much time they're in the field. And that's a huge tactic that's overlooked. It's 365 days a year, somehow, some way.
He does comes at turkey hunting like you do with Dan with deer hunting. It sounds like. Not that you don't do that with deer too, Scott. But
when you were talking about
we can put them
tactics, a couple things you said reminded me of something that all the birds we've killed over the years around here, which between our group we've killed a lot. All the really big birds, the real old ones, never come in gobbling. They don't come to calls. They would always hang up when we put decoys out. We'd kill lots of birds with the calling, but they'd be the young birds, the 2-year-olds and stuff,
Yeah.
But the real big ones all came from, eventually we just went set up where they move and just didn't make any noise and let them come to us.
Yeah. It's probably the tip, whether it was working in retail stores, being a guest, or going to speak at conventions or seminars or whatever. Probably the number one thing that I've been asked over the years is, how do I blow a diaphragm call?
Mm-hmm.
And
I've never mastered that.
No, and it's really funny because I'm proud of the turkey call company that I get to represent and get to be part of. But I can buy 15 different cuts on their call, and 14 of them will be bad, and one of them will sound good. But sometimes just trying to cut up a little bit with people, I'll say, all right, put it in your mouth, all right, and they will, and I'm like, all right, now don't blow on it. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I mean, it's supposed to have air go across the reeds. I'm like, sometimes the best way to use a diaphragm call is just not to call. Yeah. And then I'll pick up a friction call or a box call, and I'll hand it to them, and I'll like, all right, now yelp on this, okay? And then I'll say, all right, now yelp on your diaphragm call. It's like, all right, which one sounds like the dog that's dying over in the ditch, got hit by the car, and which one sounds like a turkey? And that's a tactic too. Is just, if you're carrying a turkey vest, it's 45 pounds to the woods, because that's what you seen back in, the day when you watched VHS or DVD videos. Don't do that. If you just have one call that you sound really good on, just take it. And if you have a call that you sound really bad on, maybe take it and just try it. And it goes back to that tactic. You tried it, maybe it worked, maybe it doesn't work. What I want people to understand, or the viewers, is that you need to perfect what you do. Like, you're going to perfect how you hang your stand. You need to perfect how you use a call. You need to perfect where you put your decoys. You need to perfect how you hide yourself, and just constantly keep working on it. But stop relying on calling as your number one tactic to kill turkeys. And if you are going to call, try to call and sound realistic, and use what you're comfortable with, and use something that's going to sound like a hen turkey or a young jake or what have you. Don't just go out there and call a whole lot because you think that you're going to make sounds and the turkey's going to walk right to you.
Yeah, that's something that I've learned over the last couple of years, and I've been more successful turkey hunting. Took me a while though.
The number one thing people say when they hunt with me is, a lot of times we'll go get breakfast or we'll eat at the tailgate or whatever, and we'll kind of reflect or just talk about things. And a lot of times people will start to open up. They like, well, I figured you would have called more, or I figured you would have done this, or I figured you would have done that. And I'll ask them, like, if you were hunting by yourself, what would you have done? Oh, I'd have called more. I'd have done this. And that's like, and how many turkeys are you bringing back to your truck? And they're just like, and they get it. They realize that they have relied too much on hunting videos and tactics, because I'll be the first to tell you, there's a whole lot of people in this country that get to go and hunt the most elite, best turkey hunting spots that dirt has to offer in the United States. And you can't do nothing wrong in those places. I mean, there are places where turkeys are basically a pest, okay? And they're very populated, and it doesn't take a whole lot of tactic. And certain species are just easier to kill than others. I know everybody wants to talk about the Grand Slam and the white tips and the bronze tips. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of debate on what species is hardest to kill, or which one does this or that. Just take and understand and realize that a lot of good turkey hunters, especially from the South, and that's kind of where the heritage and the tradition is, a lot of them can travel in 3 or 4 days and go somewhere and hunt birds in another state, a different terrain, whatever, another species. And 2 or 3 guys can get in the truck and they can go kill 6, 7, 8, 9 toms and come back home and be at work on Monday after a few days off. And a lot of those same hunters can barely scratch 1 or 2 birds off the public ground that they hunt on at home in Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, or Indiana, wherever, So, let your tactics develop and change as you start to understand the sport and the species.
Scott, I was going to ask you, just so we can put a scenario together. Like, right now you're sitting in southern Indiana, like actually 2 hours south of me. You're pretty far south in Indiana.
Yes, sir.
you mentioned earlier about, we can hunt these birds all throughout the spring, essentially different months, different, different times in their breeding cycles. Like tomorrow morning, like right now, what are you going to do, and what do you see the birds right now in Indiana doing?
Oh, okay. So on a normal night, I feel like I would have roosted a bird. I have some history with the area and the terrain that I'm going to go in. So let's just talk about it if we weren't doing this podcast.
Yeah.
If I would have had it's fine, because it's some of what we're going to talk about too on the program is but the birds, I would want to know at least kind of where their general roost site is. And some people are going to have places where birds roost on a regular basis, and sometimes birds just move around on their roost. But I would want to try to at least figure out where the turkeys were at and where they're roosted the evening before, and then come up with a tactic. But let's talk about actually tomorrow morning when the bird gobbles, whether I did roost it or I didn't roost the bird. I'm going to go into an area, first of all, that I think that there's going to be turkeys. Okay. I'm going to the area that I think birds will be. Even though a lot of people will tell you that you want to try to get close to the roost site, and you want to do this little soft tree up, and you want to do this little fly down, and you want to do, that's all fine and good. We'll talk about that on another program. I want to help the people, because you're asking because we want to see the viewers have more success. Mm-hmm. Before I enter the woods, I've made my mind up that I'm going to hunt turkeys. Okay. And my goal is to successfully kill one. I'm going to listen for that bird, and hopefully at least the first hour that I'm there, I at least have a pretty good idea of where I am going to at least be set up and be in front of the turkeys. So if you ask me what my strategies or my tactics are when I turkey hunt, yes, you can be really aggressive and try to get close to the roost and call them from the roost and come straight to the gun barrel and have an epic roost hunt. But I know that the odds are in my favor in the terrains that I hunt, and most other people hunt, that I'm going to be better off to be in front of the bird, where they're going to go and spend the majority of their morning, at least the first hour or two, once they get done with that first 20 or 30 minutes of gathering up, coming down off of the roost. And most of the time, that's going to be in strut zones or fields or what have you. I like to set up on turkeys knowing that I'm going to be at some type of advantage to see them. I get it. I understand, and I do it too. You want the terrain, if you're not using decoys, where, the bird's coming to look for you. But I want to know that I'm at least somewhat in the path of the bird, and I'm not going to overcall the turkey. I'm going to try to let the crows and the owls and the hens or whatever it is that's going off. Maybe it's some old cow that's bellowing down in, a pasture. I really don't want to start calling to that turkey until I know that I'm in a position and set up to where I can really kill him. And that's my locator calls and my turkey vocalization. From that point forward, over the years, it's kind of like whitetail hunting, and that is that there's some days that the conditions aren't just 100% right, but you also know that if you just wait on your trail camera picture, that it's going to be too late. Well, turkeys are kind of the same way. Whether we like it or not, turkey hunting is viewed and looked at as it's supposed to be a run and gun aggressive sport, and it can be. There's no doubt about it. But my tactic in the mornings, honestly, is going to be up until about 8 o'clock, 7:30, that first hour and a half of daylight. I'm going to be sitting where I think the turkeys are naturally going to gravitate to. Where I'm going to use my more aggressive tactics and start looking at visuals and finding birds and calling birds is going to be somewhere around that 10 o'clock mark in the day. And then in my after birds, or I heard those birds earlier that morning and maybe I didn't have success with them. And in the end, my goal is not to put enough pressure on the birds to where if I didn't have a successful hunt, that I can go back and hunt them the next day or the next weekend or the next week.
Got it. Okay. You've overloaded me with turkey information, Scott. I'm far from an expert, so I got a million things running through my mind. We have a bunch of questions about turkey hunting, and I was going to mention before we get into anything else, if you guys have questions for Scott, you guys are leaving some good.
The thing is,
good questions in the comments. Just keep leaving them there, and I'll get to them at the end here. Dan, you got anything else about turkey hunting? We want to talk about another topic tonight too for just a little bit.
No, I'm good.
I think what about you, Scott? Is there anything we missed? I think you gave us a real good rundown of like tactics or not focusing on a certain tactic and becoming a better woodsman. And then that was just a great, we lost Scott. We'll see if he gets back on here. I was worried that was going to happen there at the end. He started cutting out a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys had a lot more in common turkey hunting than what I thought you two would, Dan. Mm-hmm. I thought Scott would be more of a I'm going to call it purist, but like a guy that is very into the tactics and the thing. It was really good to hear him, a guy that's been turkey hunting and really involved in the turkey hunting industry, you know?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he said.
Yeah. Can you hear us now, Scott?
There he is.
I am, man. I'm getting some of that great National Forest cell phone reception
service. I know.
I guess
it's probably a miracle that we made it this far.
Yeah,
ran out to check a roost quick or something.
Yeah, you thought you heard a gobble or something.
It is. Yeah, actually, I was scouting on a part of the forest today that some of the county road workers they were asking what I was doing and I said, well, I would do this, but I'm getting ready to go back. Like, yeah, I know that in Fault and Josh guy, they were hunting, over here at one point in time, I believe. And so, yeah, y'all got some fans over here in this area for sure. And, I'm not sure what I missed when it went off there, and it goes back to bragging on you. And we'll develop and go further, but talking about tactics, I want to brag on Dan for a good minute, and that is no, and this is serious,
I'm just joking.
No, well, I respect you enough that you need to hear it too. There's been a big development in social media in the last 4 to 5 years, huge development, and there are so many people that are willing to give you their time, their energy, and their effort for free, or for a bare minimum cost. If anything, it's not like Dan and I went to high school together. We're not old high school buddies or nothing, but there's been times that I guarantee Dan Anfault's lost money to help the sport of hunting. And I guarantee you there's been a time that Josh has lost money and time and a meal with his family to help and grow the sport of hunting. When we talk about these tactics, it is so important, the heritage, the tactics, the sport itself. It's so important to understand the heritage and the tradition of hunting itself too. And it's very important that you understand that you need to be a student of the game. You need to be a student of the species, and not necessarily go with the latest and the greatest fad or the latest and greatest product, because I'll tell you this, turkey hunting and deer hunting is going to be around a whole lot longer than a certain camouflage pattern or a certain broadhead or a certain shotgun shell. And, our ancestors killed these things with wing bones, and different parts of twigs and sticks and rocks and stones. So we need to remember how long this sport has been around, and we need to learn from all of the YouTube and media, and we need to compliment guys like Dan and yourself, Josh, that are not out there to just create content to create income. You're out there because you passionately care about the sport and what it means. So hunting and fishing used to be something that us kids did in the country to entertain ourselves when all the work was over. And we've seen hunting kind of come into the spotlight of the economic and financial role of how it can impact the economy, and not just in retail, also with a lot of our game and fish agencies. And that's a whole nother subject. But we do need to remember that one major tactic is that we grow as a community and as a group and as outdoorsmen and women, and fight for our hunting and fishing and conservation and the lands that we have to hunt and fish on, private or public. It's really important. So don't let your guard down. That's what I'm getting at. We're fighting more and more every day, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But we're fighting more and more every day to even just teach hunting in the classroom. And it's how you learn how to hunt is a big impact on guys like yourself and Dan Infaults and the hunting public and all of those folks. I support all of you, the differences and the similarities that you have. But if you're a young person or you're a middle-aged person and you can't figure out how to deer hunt or turkey hunt right now, you're an idiot. There's more information out there than ever before. I'm serious. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to go to the courthouse. You don't have to go down to the local archery shop and just trust Bubba. I mean, you can have the greatest arrow tuner, the greatest turkey caller in the world on a YouTube video, and if you didn't get it the first time, you can hit rewind and watch it again. And I can't tell you how many seminars I went to and as a young kid and looked up to people like Dan Infault and Dan Fitzgerald and others. And I try to remember, what did they do or what was their tactic? I mean, I hope somebody takes something away tonight, like I took away from Dan Fitzgerald using his lock-on stand platform as a grill surface underneath a fire one time in one of his hunting videos. So whatever tactics you come up with, you'll remember the ones that work, and you'll always come back full circle on them. And don't be afraid to learn, and especially all the guys that are watching, because I'd say you probably got a male-driven audience. Drop your ego a little bit and ask a damn question and admit that you don't know something. Mm-hmm. I mean, at some point in time, you don't stop learning. You need to continuously learn, and you need to remember that we're doing this as a sport and to provide nutrition and game on the table, not to go out there and see who gets the biggest medal put on their chest. So.
Yep. No, well said, Scott. And that's what before I go any farther, we do have mostly males watching, but our favorite our favorite fan is a female. Her name's Elizabeth. I don't know if Elizabeth is on tonight or not, but she's one of our biggest supporters of the show. That kind of leads us into what you kind of teed it up for me, Scott, about what we want to talk about next. Is a couple of weeks ago, I went down to your neck of the woods and helped out with a youth program, an outreach program that you put on. And I'm finishing up a video about it now, so everybody will be able to see that. And I was going to say too, if anybody wants to make some donations tonight, those donations will go straight to Scott's program that we're getting ready to talk about. So listen to Scott's pitch about this. It's a really cool program that needs to happen in more parts of the country. But Dan, Scott, you want to talk about what we did a couple of weeks ago and kind of how that came about?
Yeah, no doubt. I've been an instructor of firearms and hunter education for quite a while, and the hunting education side of things, I started realizing going through hunter education classes that the kids that needed hunter education the most were the kids that already had their hunter education card. They went through hunter education at 5 or 6 years old or 7 or 8 years old with their uncle or their dad or whoever. And dad took the test for them. Dad got their card because they needed it for the legal requirement. So I started changing my hunter education up several years ago and try to be innovative in the fact that we needed to do not just hunter education, but advanced hunter education. And that led into bigger and broader things like the event that you went to. When we look at, for example, the sport of bowling, we can go to a bowling alley and we can rent a set of shoes and we can rent, the lane, and they provide the ball, and you can't, I don't know if you can really do that with hunting, if people think about it. You can go and try bowling for a little bit for $10 or $15. I know that me and you and others can talk about how we can go squirrel hunt with a 22 of our dad or our grandpa's or whatever, and a handful of shells and have fun. But a lot of kids don't have that scenario. And we live in a country right now that absolutely has sick people in it. I mean, just mentally sick. And so anytime that you talk about firearms in schools, it's not a very popular topic. And my job in serving my community is to not only educate our young people about how to safely utilize firearms in the field for hunting purposes, but just to look in general about how important shooting sports is, to let them understand how important first responders are in rural areas, whether that's where we ride our ATVs, or why it's important if you are going to go on a horseback ride, or you're going to go out to the woods, that you tell people where you're at on the first aid aspect of things. So when you put the video together, what people are going to see is I try to move around the country, and I try to put on various programs to keep people from getting alpha-gal, or I try to explain to people why it is important that you know how to use and handle a firearm, even if you're not a hunter. And for example, with that, think about if your grandma or your grandpa dies and you go and you clean out their closet, or you go and clean out a drawer and there's a revolver, there's a shotgun there. I mean, you may need to know how to handle a firearm safely, just on the aspect that you got to move your deceased grandmother's items out of the house, or your grandfather, or what have you. People have pets and animals and children, especially with me teaching agriculture education. If an animal needs to be put down instantly to be humane, a kid may need to know how to use a pistol or a rimfire rifle or a shotgun to put an animal out of its misery. We live in such a world today that we want to put so many screens and filters on things that it makes it really tough to teach what used to be just basic, normal, common sense and activities.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I just try to work through the school system, and I realize that I do represent my district and the Department of Education for the state, but I'm not doing anything special, Josh. I'm just trying to remind people that hunter education used to be a normal thing that was taught in the classroom. And a lot of these kids can go to school, to college, to play a sport that can ruin their knees or their back or give them a concussion. But there's also a lot of kids that can go to a trade school or have a lifelong passion, or have something that keeps them motivated and driven, like shooting sports or hunting. And it's hard for people to understand how to put something like this together. But believe it or not, most of your state troopers, most of your first responders, most of the people that make your rural communities up are anglers and hunters. And so you tell them that you're wanting to put on a program that's teaching children how to hunt or how to fish, or you're trying to put on a program that makes people aware as an adult how they can safely shoot and handle a firearm for shooting sports and for hunting. You'll have all the volunteers in the world, especially right now, because people understand, unfortunately, how misunderstood and how misperceived firearms are in the hands of young people and just everyday American citizens. And so what we try to do is to incorporate it not only as hunting and not only as shooting sports, but my job at the end of the day, when a kid walks across that graduation stage, is they should be employable. And my job as a school teacher is not to hand a kid a list of chapter questions or vocabulary words or a worksheet. My job is to prepare a kid to be a successful and self-sufficient American. And a lot of our careers that we quote unquote put so much value into, or people say that they support so much, our soldiers, our police officers. Well, part of their skills and part of their training is to know how to operate and run a firearm safely. And so through curriculum and through teaching and education and doing it in a safe platform without getting politics involved, we can allow young people in schools to use and handle firearms safely where no death or injury occurs. And we can prove to this country that firearms do have their place in the woods and on the range, and that we have greater and bigger problems to solve other than controlling firearms. We need to control people, and we need to get people conditioned that firearms are going to be part of what we use in our everyday life for sport. And we need to remind people that firearms do protect us. I mean, they protect your child and your wife, and they protect all of us. We have careers that need people to not only appreciate firearms, but also know how to thoroughly run them and utilize them if the time or the need arises. And it's no different to me than allowing a kid to go and shadow a plumber or a doctor for a day. And I think it's good for these kids.
Oh, we lost Scott again.
No, you got me.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
I had a phone call coming in. Am I there?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're there. You're good. Keep going.
Okay, but it's just it's just so important that we expose these kids to opportunities. And people ask me all the time. You were asking about, why we do this event or why we do these things. People ask me all the time, why do I continue to teach school with all the other opportunities that I've had out there? And I'll be real bold with you about something. I didn't have a teacher like me. No one told me about all the different opportunities. No one told me about all the different careers. No one told me about the difference between being in an entrepreneurship situation or working for somebody else. And so, all I'm trying to do is swing the bat for the good guys. That's really all I'm trying to do. And there's unfortunately, not locally. Locally, I'm really supported, but nationally, man, there's too many hoops and things to cut through and deal with when it comes to getting young people involved with shooting sports and taking them hunting. I mean, at the end of the day, there's more people, honestly, that are trying to keep kids from doing it than are supporting kids to do it. And to me, it's really worth taking the gloves off and fighting for.
Yep. It was, I didn't think about it until you mentioned it a second ago, Scott, but it was pretty crazy how, when we got there, how many like conservation officers and law enforcement people were there to help out. I didn't think about it until you said that, but there was a lot of that support around that event. It was pretty cool.
How many people were there?
Yeah, no doubt.
Scott, how many people were end up being there? I mean, there was a pile of people.
I had a little. Oh yeah, that particular event, we were probably pushing right at 115 by the time that everybody filtered in and out. I work. I would say that I'm probably working with close to 15 to 1,900 people a year in similar events. That was just one of them. Not paid for it. I think you got the shirt on, don't you, from that particular event?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yep. Yeah, I do. I don't know. I can't see it, but
yeah. So yeah, like everybody thinks that like all the people that are on the back are throwing big money our way. Those people are throwing product our way so that I can utilize it to showcase it and talk to kids. And one of the things that you didn't get to see is the event that I do with young people is that was just one part of what we work on, hopefully for 4 years that we have them in high school. Hopefully we get them as a freshman and they get several of those events. But I'm a big advocate about getting gear in the kids' hands that is good, because I look back at my years as a hunter and I looked at how I bought things based off popularity or fads, and I didn't really buy stuff because it was the best. And I just try to show them a little bit about quality over quantity, and just how to purchase and go through that. Whether they're going to buy a beef stand or a beef stick, or if they're going to buy something that's going to rust on them and be twice as heavy. We can teach kids a whole lot, not just shooting firearms. We can teach them how to make a decision and how to manage their money. And I mean, you think about it over the years, the stuff that me, you, and Dan have bought, that if we would have bought what we wanted to begin with, we would have been a lot better off, but we thought it was too expensive, right out of the gate. So,
yeah. And Scott, people can go on and buy the merchandise, right, that you were talking about just a second ago, to the website.
Oh. Yeah, so I'll give you the link, and they can buy it. That all those proceeds, I think the shirts on the website, I want to say they're $20. The hoodies are like $30, and so the cost of living these days, it basically comes out to where we make just a few bucks, and 100% of those proceeds go to the MCH wildlife account at the high school, and that was the funds that were utilized to put on the event that you got to come and see, because it doesn't take long to go through a few $100s worth of expense putting sandwiches and ammo.
I would say you probably went through
we did, and we're not eating filet mignon.
No, you probably went through a few $100 every 30 minutes. It seemed like with many of them kids were clinking 223s and shotgun shells, and it was a constant stream of shooting.
Yeah, and the best part about it is, yeah, it really was, and it was good to see a lot of those officers become kids again for just a few seconds too. It comes full circle again of, it brings back what we learned as young people. I mean, think about all the days that we went through a brick of 22 shells, and our parents told us not to shoot all of them in one day.
Yeah, right. Right. Okay, I'll link that website in the description for everybody if they want to go grab a T-shirt from Scott. And like I said, if you guys make a donation, a couple people have donated tonight, which we appreciate it. Everybody, I'll make sure that all gets over to Scott here. Let's answer some turkey hunting questions before we hop off here, Scott, if that's all right with you. Oh shoot!
Yeah.
Can you hear me now, Scott? Are you there?
I got you. Yeah. For whatever reason, I'm having a little bit of tech difficulty, but I'm live here with you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're good now. Let's answer some questions quick, Scott, before we hop off here.
Can you see if everybody can turn their Wi-Fi off on their phones that way? I've got their service down.
There you go. You're sucking the fun out of everybody's evening.
Okay.
Are you good?
What you got?
All right. Steve had a question for you, Scott.
Yeah.
He says, what stories or experience can you hear me now? Are you there, Scott? Okay. Steve had a question for you. He's asking, what stories or experience have you heard that don't have you interested in going for the Osceola hunt?
No, is our technical difficulty shine through? I'll read the question. Honestly, I believe that most of the birds are baited. I believe that it's more or less a hunt that money provides.
Okay.
That just to be real honest with you, I know that some people have done it, and it has been a legit and total challenge. Okay. It may just be that when they're in another country, it doesn't appeal to me to go to Texas and other states that allow baiting and shoot turkeys over corn either. I really don't want to go and travel and put that much time, energy, and expense into going and shooting something that's eating Milo seed. It doesn't gobble, and it's just I've got too many friends that I trust that where I'm at in my point in time in life, my daughter, my wife, and myself, we've got other things to spend our money on that I would prioritize over doing a hunt like that. So I know it's going to piss people off, but it's just not my cup of tea. And these are people that I truly value and trust. Like, they've gone and they didn't enjoy it either. So, but I'm sure we could talk about big games and African hunts too. I mean, there's people that go and absolutely love it, and there's other people that go that they didn't enjoy the style of hunting. And so all I can do is, I need to try it, I guess, before I can knock it. I'm just saying I'm not appealed to do it right now. So.
Right. Yeah. I know I've kind of heard the same rumblings about that species. I don't have any desire either. not because of that. I just don't. Something I never thought about is doing something like that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, man, you know, you got all those USDA fees and the expense of getting there and back. I you know, I am who I am, and I don't know if I have $5,000 laying around to go shoot a bird. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Dan, you may be able to help with this one. Any tips on killing birds in swamp bottoms?
Absolutely. I would. Yeah. Number one thing is people need to know that turkeys will roost over water a lot, and turkeys don't. Sometimes turkeys don't travel real far in a swamp. They're happy. They have everything that they need there. The water is their security. That's their shelter. In a lot of ways, their food source a lot of times will be from the vegetation and the trees there. And you know, a lot of times in the swamp, it's going to be as much about position and knowing where that dry ground is. And stop listening to all these tactics that turkeys won't cross water and creeks and rivers, because they'll cross it all the time. They got up in that tree by flying up in that tree. They'll fly to that next little dry piece of land. And listen, turkeys will walk in inches of water like it's nothing. I don't know. Turkeys don't like water in general, but just because there's a couple inches of water up in some timber or in a swamp or something, don't let that rule out that bird will not, you know, get around in that area. Man, they'll spend their whole day with their toes wet, man. I mean, it's like we perceive and we assume too much as humans, and sometimes you just got to get in there and get your butt wet.
Jacob was hunting with me, or hunting over here this last week. He had the first season, and I showed him one of my favorite spots. It's got turkeys, swamp birds, basically. There's fields that are private adjacent to swamps, and you can hunt a little bit of woods up against the swamp. And he was in birds like crazy, and they were roosting out in the water, up in the trees, and actually landing down in the water and going the other way.
Yeah, no doubt. Turkeys are just like whitetails, and that is there's a handful of us that aren't afraid to chase them no matter where they're at.
Right.
And that's some legit advice. I'm going to tell you what keeps most people out of swamps of chasing turkeys. It's called the cottonmouth snake. That's God's honest truth. That people are more afraid of snakes than they are about getting their butt wet. They just don't like standing around like, well, I don't want to. And mosquitoes and different things. I mean, let's just face it. A spring or summer swamp is not the best condition for, you know, your skin or your snake bite survival. You know. But swamps are very productive, and those turkeys deserve a special pat on the back too. Swamp turkeys and hardwood turkeys they're very unique.
Okay, Richard, he asked, how do you age a turkey?
How do I age a turkey?
How many candles are on
the cake? How many candles are on the cake?
Most of the time, I age a turkey by cutting it into nugget-sized bites. I soak it in cold beer and Kentucky Colonel in the refrigerator, and I age it for about 30 minutes before I drop it in the hot peanut oil. I do believe that spurs do help us determine age of turkeys when terrain and living conditions do not have a tremendous impact on how the spur grows and the conditions that it has to go through to keep its length. I mean, I don't know. I don't age turkeys, and something else about me is I don't measure my whitetails. I just don't. And you know, I have no desire ever in my life to just focus on killing the old turkeys. I just know that sometimes when they have an 1 3/4 spur, that they didn't make that last spring to now. And I just try to go off of the general redneck rule that anything you know, around that 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch mark is probably a 2-year-old bird, and anything above that is probably older than 2 years old, and anything past 1.5 inches, I've always given it credit to be over 4. So that's just how I roll. But I guess we need some
Like-
type of genetic test or something,
Yeah.
age testing for turkeys.
Like you said, that's just a rule of thumb, though. There's all kinds of variables. I heard a biologist get on a podcast and talk about aging turkeys, and he said it's almost impossible to really.
Yeah. One of the things, as long as people listen, I don't want to go too long, but I would, I'm a conservationist. I mean, there's no doubt about it that if you're going to kill as much stuff as we do, and all three of us are killers at the end of the day, we have to give back more than we take. That's what's on that shirt. I would encourage people to stop worrying so much about the length of their spurs and start worrying about the pound of their birds. The pound of their turkeys, they need to start recording that as much as the beard length and everything else. Our turkeys are sick in places. They really are. Our turkeys have got some parasite issues. We're having some real habitat issues. We've got people that are turkey hunting the same farms. They've been turkey hunting for 25, 30 years. The timber's not been cut. Nothing's been done. It's just the same partial ground. Some of the habitat issues that we look for, they do get better in time, and some need to be reset with succession. So, chalk it up however you want to as far as the age of the bird, but any data that you can record on your turkey, and it's legit data, not something that you're guessing. When that telecheck or that online app asks you how long your spur is, by all means, please take the time to get a flexible tape measure and make an accurate measurement on the beard and the spurs and the weights for these biologists so that they can manage and protect the resource that we all love.
All right. Goomer22 asks, any tips for a first-time turkey bow hunter? So he's going to have to be on public land.
Yeah.
He hasn't scouted much.
Yeah. Buy the biggest cutting broadhead that you can find, preferably a 3-blade, and practice shooting in your yard or whatever from a seated position. And the minute that you think the decoys are too close to the blind, move them another yard closer. It's amazing with bow hunting turkeys. And Dan, are you familiar with like Brooks Johnson back in the day when he invented double bull blinds and stuff like that?
I remember when they first came out. I don't remember the guy's name.
Yeah. Well, Brooks is one of those guys, and he's one of the two guys, and it's absolutely amazing. Back when all of the bow hunting from the ground with natural cover in your bow. I mean, we get it. That's a popular thing to do too, but majority of people do utilize a blind to bow hunt. Just in all honesty, make sure that you're checking your pins and how they shoot at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. Take close shots. People ask me all the time why I don't bow hunt turkeys more. I've got a pretty extensive list of turkeys killed with archery equipment, just like I used to travel. There used to be states that had archery seasons before shotgun seasons. Unfortunately, I can speak from experience that broadheads on turkeys are not always a great combination. So number one tip is please shoot the biggest cut that you can and try to shoot a mechanical. Just try to knock that turkey with everything you got, and don't rule out the headshot. It's a very ethical shot. And if you're a little bit low, you're right there going into the beard and that front center chest cavity or into the vertebrae of the neck. And it's a very fatal shot. Turkeys are a really strange and difficult target with archery equipment. And probably the best way for someone to truly study it, even though you may seem a little bit weird being that guy in your neighborhood, but go to the grocery store, buy you a bird out of the frozen food section, go out there and shoot it with your bow and look at the anatomy of the turkey and realize how small your area really is that you have to hit, and be ready to be mobile to go after that bird after the shot's released. It's very important to get the birds quickly if they don't go down instantly.
I think shot placement is key too. If you don't break the wing or the leg, it can be hard to recover them. And
no doubt.
I'm a big fan of shotguns. I mean, I love bow hunting deer, but I think after bow hunting turkeys a while, I like shotguns. I've lost a lot of turkeys with bow.
Absolutely. Anybody says they've not lost turkeys to archery equipment's lying.
Find them, they hide. They can be very difficult to kill with a bow,
Yes,
or
sir.
not necessarily kill, but just find after you shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, really close shots and big cutting broadheads, Josh.
All right, Goomer had another question. He says, if I run into turkey flocks during late deer season, would they potentially be in the same areas in the spring?
Oh man, yes and no. It goes back to what we talked about. You just need to stay on top of your scouting. 365 days a year. If you can't be there, put a trail camera there. The innovations and technologies that we have, get out and listen to them. Most of the time, let's just say you got a flock of 20 to 60 birds, which could be anywhere in this country. Most of the time, if you leave the birds alone and there's plenty of cover, there's water, and there's just general habitat, food and stuff, you'll at least have a bird around the hunt. At least within earshot to go in there and try to call him up or hunting. This goes back to scouting. Some years there's farms that hold multiple birds, and some years there's not. It could be something as simple as whether or not there's a cover crop on the farm, or whether or not there's a burn down on the agricultural fields. It could be something as much as just the temperature of the spring and what type of weather we have. There's so many factors there, but scout and scout some more.
So Dave's farm, we very rarely see a turkey there during the whole fall deer season.
Mm-hmm.
But they're there every spring.
Yeah,
but they're not.
I have
there
all these.
They move someplace.
Have all these friends. They have all these pictures of these groups of 10, 12, 14, 15 gobblers together. And they're all excited. And about 3 or 4 weeks before turkey season shows up, they're always thinking that somebody next door is baiting because they lost their turkeys. Like it's not your turkey. It's a resource, and those were turkeys that were on your farm. I didn't see your name on any of their legs, and I dang sure didn't see their name written, on their feathers. But turkeys do a lot more moving and transitions than people give them credit for, and turkeys cover a lot more area than people give them credit for. We've all been guilty of probably being frustrated with hunting turkeys and tried to visually find quote unquote easier bird to hunt or to get on. But you start going after a true wild turkey, true, not living in the suburbs and not living around the hay ring or the manure piles or the creek feeders on the cattle farm. Them jokers they'll keep you hopping on your feet, and you'll cover some terrain, I promise you, because one of the tactics we didn't talk about is, unfortunately, some people hunt the same spots from the very first of season to the very end of season, and you got to change your tactics up a lot, like whitetails, So.
Yep. Let's do one more question and then get off here so we can all go turkey hunting in the morning.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Chase has one here. If you don't have any fields available to hunt, what is the best way to approach tagging a tom?
Okay. Can he talk back to us pretty quick?
I'm not sure.
Depends
if he's on here.
Yeah. It would depend on the terrain, but if you don't have a field, it's okay. Turkeys don't roost in fields. Turkeys roost in trees. Turkeys don't spend all day in the field. One of the things that we talked about is, you can't put that pressure on the turkeys. Everybody thinks that you got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go hunt turkeys. Your spot may be better at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Your spot may be better to let them do their thing in the morning and not bump them and go back in there and hunt them when they're coming back to the roost, if it's legal for your state to hunt in the afternoon. Scouting, paying attention to food sources, looking for scratching, trying to roost a gobbler the night before, just trying to listen to them in the morning. A lot of people will go out in the mornings and listen to turkeys, and they hear them gobble, they shut the truck door, and they go on. Very few people stick around for 35, 40, 50 minutes and figure out if they're going north, east, south, west, or just staying where they're at. Pattern your birds, and remember that the minute that you think you got them figured out, they'll do something totally different the next day you go to hunt them. So sometimes the plan comes together and sometimes it doesn't. It has nothing to do with your skill level. It's just none at all. And your calling, you can sound like a barking dog, and sometimes you can sound like the real hen, and it's just for whatever reason, they gobbled to the barking dog instead of the, the Grand National calling champion. So they deserve all the credit they need, but sometimes we give them too much credit, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Scott. There's a few people that commented that you are their favorite guest so far. So.
Yeah. Well, maybe you've got an audience that drinks a lot of liquor when they listen or something. I appreciate that. I hope I didn't come across too bold. I really respect you, Josh, and Dan. I respect you for what you've done, and you can kick me in the shin when you see me, but as you've aged, Dan, I want you to know that even men like myself still look up to you as a mentor, and I know that we have several mutual friends that truly do understand what Dan Infault's all about. And Josh, publicly, for the record, there was one day that I got real fired up on the phone with you about how important it is to push conservation in youth, and that was never directed toward you and at all. I've seen your potential since day one, and you're a family man. You're a successful hunter. You're bringing back the fact of the importance of filling your tag and being satisfied with your harvest and your hunting style and your skill. And I appreciate Dan giving you the inspiration and the mentorship that he has. And I think you all are a great pair. I think sometimes, and I can tell you this from working with mentors in my life, that sometimes it's water and oil and sometimes it's salt and pepper. And but no doubt about it, both of you are doing the right thing. And hopefully we can get on again and really talk some strategies about whitetails, because there's a whole lot of fat we can chew on that too. A whole lot. Yeah,
for sure. You got to walk on things too. So thanks, Scott, for all the kind words.
So, yeah. Anytime, man. It's the respect you deserve. So y'all be safe. Good luck hunting.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, well, we'll text each other tomorrow. If I don't have one dead by 10 o'clock, I'm going to be like, darn it, Josh, I should have just gone and roosted one, So,
yeah, there you go. So, well, if you don't, come up north, I'll find you one up here.
It's going to be about 20 degrees when I go up tomorrow morning.
Yeah, well, it's all right. You old people, Dan, y'all can't feel your toes anyway now, right? So it's me and Josh, we're the young whippersnappers, I guess. So we'll pick on you while we can. Or at least I'll pick on you a few hundred miles away. You can beat me up at your camp. So, yeah. So.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Yes, sir. Y'all be safe. Thanks a ton.
Good luck tomorrow,
see you, man. Yeah.